Okay, guys, so we have all of our DJ systems are pretty much matched. So the coffins are all almost identical. Some are carpeted, some are hard case like this. We have all the same subs. Our main speakers are all QSC K12s. Our subs are all QSC KW 181s. We'll get to the ceremony systems, but everything's pretty uniform and pretty matched. That way you're working with the same gear all the time. You know it, and it's not going to matter. Like if you get in this van, oh, this is a JBL system. Oh, this is an EV system. Oh, everything's the same. So it makes it really easy for you guys. So we're going to start with, these are our DJ coffins. Call them coffins. Back in the day, they were 6 feet long and they literally looked like a coffin. But we've actually got some up on the shelf there. But this holds our lighting control. If we're using certain type of lighting, it holds our wireless mics. It holds our mixer that's going to control all of our volumes, and has a drawer in it that has some batteries and other stuff in it on the mics. Our sub cabinets. This is our stand case. So it's got all of our stands for our speakers for both ceremony and DJ. Our lighting box. This is called a boom box. It's just a generalized light. Puts off different colored beams and different lights that go to the beat of the music. Chord box. All our chord boxes are pretty uniform with how many chords are in each box for a standard system. This one actually has more chords in it than normal. And then a set of K12s, which are our main speakers, and our light stand for the lighting. So you're always going to have a 4-foot table. So before you do the 4-foot table, put anything on it, you want to put your table skirt on it. Remember, when you guys are loading in, don't set gear up where you're going to be setting up. I've seen guys do that. You start loading in, and this is your setup area, and they're stacking cases here and here. Well, then you go to set up, and you got to move those cases now. So you want to think about that in efficiency and flow, and think about your teardown at the end of the night too. If you sit here and spend 20 minutes wrapping a cord all down that, well, guess what? At the end of the night, it's going to take you 20 minutes to unwrap it. So I'll show you different tricks that we have for cutting down on some of that time. So you always want to do tablecloth. Tablecloth is always in the back of the DJ coffins. Some of these do have a front and back, so they'll have like an opening on the back of them. So you just get that on. If for some reason it's stained or dirty, spin it around and make sure you pull it, put a note on it so it gets washed the next time out. You get your DJ coffin set up, take the lid off, slide it up underneath, and then the lid, or the face, it goes under there also. These also work really nicely if you're outdoors and you've got the sun in your eyes. You can put that, it's going to protect that laptop that's sitting up there, because you don't want that laptop to overheat or get hot. Or maybe you're getting set up and you're all set and your gear's going to be in the sun for like an hour until the sun goes down. Take that, put it over there. That way that mixer doesn't get super hot. You want to protect that gear. Heat's just kind of an enemy of electronics. Yeah. So when it's not in use, it goes underneath in that lid that's underneath your case. So that's your starting point. From there, go to your next step. Your next step would be your subs. Subs will have your IEC power cable. So you always want to make sure everything stays with things. These subs always have a power cable. So when you're tearing down at the end of the night, this cable does not go in the cord box. It goes with the sub. Because then the next guy takes that system out. Maybe that cord box went somewhere else. He pulls the sub out. He's missing a power cable. Pretty commonly we pole mount our K12s. So you get your pole mounts out. And a good starting point, it always depends on the size of the room and the guests. We usually go with the third hole. You want that speaker at shoulder height or up. If you got it down, bodies absorb sound. That sound's going to be hitting those bodies or blasting the people out right in front. People in back, they're not going to hear it clear sound. So you get the bottom of the speaker usually right around that shoulder level. If you've got a big room and you got a big distance to project, get it up even higher. Same with distance on your spread. You'll see a lot of guys like making comments on different systems about them having to, they're wearing their DJ speakers like headphones. It's because they're so close, they're in nice and tight. If you've got the space like at school dances or in gyms, spread them out, get that width, get that dispersion nice and big. But we work in a lot of wedding venues where tight is all we got. So this is pretty common, about a foot off of each side for a typical wedding, because we're only projecting to like a 16 by 20 dance floor. And that's all we need to rock. We don't need to rock the whole room, we just gotta rock the dance floor. So this is a pretty average space on setup. So once your subs are set, then you move on to your speakers. When I'm done with stuff, I close it up. Don't leave these out, because what happens is those get caught on things, break, bend, cut someone's ankle open. So close it up, you're done with it, and then move on to your next step. So notice I'm not wiring anything yet. I want to get everything set, then start wiring it. So now I'm going to do my light. So location for light. When you're at the venue, you're always going to have one side that is the most accessible. So if you're set up here and you think that a coordinator, someone making a request, or just your easy access point is on this side, on your right side, then put this light over here on your left. I always kind of throw it on my left. That's just if both sides are equal. We put it behind the speaker because it hides the pole. It makes it all look a little cleaner look. It hides the pole, hides the cable, and then we just crank it up from there. So just our standard American DJ boombox light. Pull this out. Pull the bag out. It does have a top and a bottom. The bottom obviously has the feet on it. Again, it's got a nice IEC cable and a mount. Leave the washer on the top. Slide it in. That's just going to sit on there like that. And then you want to make that IEC cable look nice and clean. So usually what I do is I kind of run it up this way and then wrap it. That way the cord's nice and clean. I've seen guys do this, where they run it like that and then it comes over like this. Well, then you're seeing that cable. So you want that cable as clean and tight to everything as you can. So every cord box has a mixture of cables. So we've got black strap, or 50 footers. Gray straps are 25 footers. There's a few 30s in there, but mostly 25s. Blue straps are 8 to 15s. So short, medium, longs. There's also some 100 footers that have black straps, but they're pretty obvious because they're twice the size. Same with XLRs. It's all color coded the same exact way. I didn't do any bright colors other than on the short ones because we use all black cords. We want our cords to be hidden. We don't want them to be standing out. I see guys use like bright ass colors. We don't want that. Also, you're gonna have a Furman power conditioner, power strip in there. We do have standard power strips. We got a ton of these. There's also triple taps or 3-ways. So we've got a few of those in there also. So, but this is your main power. So when you're running that, it's the same thing with your light. You want to look at what is your high access area, or your high, your most common path that people are going to take, and you want to run your cables the opposite side. So the power conditioner goes up underneath. Run this cable back along the back side of it. Just like that, and then plug it into your wall. So normally your wall plug is going to be back here somewhere. It could go that way. This could come around, go this way or that way. So you're going to plug that into the wall. So again, what I'm doing is I'm starting with my source for my power, just back here. So next, I'm going to start plugging in everything. And usually what I do is I work on power first, and then I work on XLR. So I do everything in stages. Then you don't forget stuff. If you just do it in simple stages, you know, whatever works best for you. I'm going to do all my power, then I'll come along and do all my XLR. So I'm going to run the power for the sub. And I'm going to tuck it under the wheel caster. Take the excess, keep it all up underneath my table. So I ran, the subs are in. Next we'll do the K12s. Sometimes you do have to add extension cords onto these, obviously, if you're going with a wider spread. Next I'm going to do my power for my coffin. So on the side of the coffin there's a power plug, and what I do is I take this cable and run it up through the handle. That just kind of helps secure it. Take that, run it down, plug it in. I'm going to run the power for the light now. I'm going to take the Velcro strap and run it down here because I don't want it to be seen. So now that all my power is done, next I'm going to move on to our XLR cable and run our signal. So normally what I do is I run 225s and 215s. So the 15s I use for going from the sub to the speaker. Again, it's got a direction. Your power is directed, your source is the wall, coming out to the speakers. For this, my source is my DJ Coffin. Your first source is either your laptop or your microphone. Then it goes in the mixer, out of the mixer, through the cables, to the subs, from the subs to the tops. So the reason this is so important to understand is troubleshooting. When you have a problem and you have no audio, start with your source. What's wrong with the laptop? Is the laptop producing? Yes. Okay. Is the mixer producing sound? Yes. Okay. Oh, I didn't plug that XLR cable in. Go through the channels. A lot of people will go, oh, my speaker's blown. And it was a cable back here at the mixer. So you want to just start with your source always. So same thing I'm going to do. Running cables. Plug in my XLR cable, the console, run it over to the sub, get my short cable, this one in, here, plug this one in, and then do the other side. So once it's all set, then we come back and do our cable management. Try to run them as cleanly as possible from the beginning. That way you don't have so much work. Inside here we got these things from Gravity Clips. They're really nice for cable management. Leave a little excess. You don't want this pulling on it and breaking down that connection. So always make sure there's a little slack in there. Now there's times that I'll run a little tiny piece of gaff tape right there. But you run it down the back side, this cable's a little on the short side. So I'd normally put an extension on that, but when you're looking at it from the front, those cables are all hidden. I actually had a client book me and asked, she thought all my gear was wireless.
Oh, wow.
She's like, so how do you do it? Is all your gear wireless? I'm like, no. I didn't see the extension cords or cables. I'm like,
Well,
yeah, that's because it's, you know, cable management. You get on some of these forums, like bad DJ setups, and oh man, they just roast people because of cable management. But it's appearance, it's making it look good. So back here, usually what I'll do is this will come down and run under there. This excess you just kind of roll up, tuck it in nice. And you can use these straps for stuff too. So you can come along here and utilize that strap just like that.
Okay.
You know, put a piece of gaff tape over it. You know, you don't need to gaff the whole thing because it's not a high traffic area. Just a little strap and you're good to go. So we've got everything set up. What we're gonna do,
kick on our power conditioner, that's going to tell us our volts. So that's how much power we're getting. 120, it's a 120 volt plug. That's good. That gets down to like 110 or lower. That's not good. A breaker will usually pop around 90 to 100. I've seen them pop because of big loads that get dumped in them, but the speakers will actually suffer at 110 and lower. You'll start hearing distortion because they're not getting enough power to operate.
Okay.
So we try to operate in 110 or more. So if you plug in and you're 110 and you're not even got music on, once that music going, that thing's going to be really dropping. I have done it. If there's just no other option, get rid of the subs. Just unplug the subs, bypass the subs, just run the tops.
Okay.
So that's one thing to do when you're in an area that just you can't get more power. So we're good on power. Next thing we got is then we would set our laptop up and do a sound check. Power for the laptop, you're going to plug into the power conditioner in the back. Make sure you plug that in. This USB out is our sound card. So we use the internal sound card, which is our headphone jack. That goes into one of the channels. The USB is an external sound card. That's our main output. We'll get that open and on and do a sound check. One thing I do is I just go through all my levels and I kind of just zero them out, or what's called unity. You just put them straight up. My master is usually at unity, which is that main line. I turn my mics down. I make sure my talkover is on, but not on the talkover. That just means the mic's on. That'll actually give it like a 20 dB slope, so it just drops the volume down. We really don't use those. I've got kind of my standard settings that I know work well. Crossfader, just kind of zero out everything. So I've got sound coming into the board right here because of my level right there, my LED meter. So I know I've got that. I've got the volume down. So we've got sound on both sides. So all I did was grab the balance and go left to right. Grab my mics, do a quick mic check, make sure those are all working.
There will always be a minute.
Check, check, 1, 2.
Yes.
Check, check, mark 2. So I just did a quick sound check. There's always spare batteries in there. So settings on the QSC K12s, you've got an external sub, a normal, and a deep. So the external sub is going to take and cut out all the local frequencies to the top speaker because you have a subwoofer that's taking care of all that. Makes these run a lot more efficiently, and it takes a lot of the wear and tear off the woofer as well. If you're running just these speakers and no subs, so a smaller wedding, an older couple wedding, or an event that just doesn't need subs, then you put them on normal.
Okay.
If you're doing an event where you're just using these and you want a little more thump to it, put it on deep. But you got to watch the clip light because you can clip it out. If you're trying to bump it and get the bass that you get out of these, out of just those, it's not going to happen.
Okay.
And that will,
Call me.
yeah. So you always want to check that. We don't run the vocal boost. We just run it on flat. Our gain level, we always point it right at the arrow, so it's right around 2 o'clock. So these are 2 channels. So if we wanted to run something else, maybe we had a musician over here and he was, playing guitar with an electric pickup, we can run him right over straight into this or something.
Okay.
We don't use the second channel all that often. So your signal comes out, it goes into the sub. And on the sub, it has a deep and a normal. Usually for weddings or anything, or corporate, I usually have it on normal. Once the dance portion of the evening gets going, a lot of times I'll kick it down to deep. Just get a little bit more thump to it. But you don't want that during background music.
Okay.
On the subs, we usually run the gain about straight up. There's also a normal and reverse. There's a reverse polarity, so you can actually run these subs one backwards and one forward. It helps control the bass behind the system.
Okay.
We don't do that, so you just want to make sure that's on normal. The other is an LED. There's an LED on the front of these. I usually run them off. When we do productions where we're out in front of the speakers and we can see them, we'll run it on, I think it's clip, or it's limit. We'll run it on limit. That tells us that the speaker is limiting out. It's peaking. So, but typically those are off. Some of the older QSC cabinets don't have a lock on the XLR, and I've actually seen these just get pushed out a little bit. Just pushed out just a hair. So on like some of the productions, we run a piece of tape across them. These can limit out too. So you just want to make sure they're not limiting out. You know, every once in a while you drop in a song that's just super heavy bass, peek over at them, because your ears will start closing up.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, man, it's getting a lot quieter in here. And then you're pushing it louder. Oh, it's even quieter, and you're pushing it louder. Your ears are adjusting and getting used to that sound. So chewing gum, walking outside, just kind of clearing your head, clearing your ears, that's all stuff that I do.
Okay.
You know, I'll walk outside for a minute, come in and go, dang, it's loud. So I know where my unity is on the board for most rooms. You know, it's like I know where my settings are. If they're beyond that, I'll go out and do a walk around. And you should be doing that throughout the night anyways, because being behind the sound is completely different than out in front. Keep an eye on your guests. When your guests are walking by and they're kind of like doing this, and, you know, I mean, older people are going to do that anyways, but just keep an eye on your guests. You'll see them reacting to the sound, and I'll go, oh, maybe it's a little loud out there.
Okay.
Turn it down. So additional lighting or fog machines. Fog machines are big heaters, so they're going to draw a lot of power. Or high schools, we're running bigger lighting systems. You definitely want to separate the power then. So fog machines are always on a separate power, and bigger lighting systems are always on a separate power. When we're running our big productions, we're sometimes running like 8, 12, 16, 24 circuits. And we're running lots of power. But I'm doing power, you know, distribution and calculations and distributing it all evenly on those bigger ones, so it's drawn out. But normal DJ events, it's like you come in and they're like, oh, you're going to set up right here, and the coffee maker's right there. Those coffee makers are 1,500 watts. A 20 amp circuit is 2,400 watts. So if you think about it, you're like, wow, that sucker's sucking 1,500 watts out.
Yeah.
You know, that's not going to leave me much for the DJ system. So you always want to be away from, you know, any warmers, any heaters, coffee makers, things like that.
Okay.
And these are a big heater, fog machine. So try to separate those out. This is a little guy. This is like the smallest one we have. So that's our bigger ones are 1,500 watt. That's a 700 watt. You know, it's not too bad. Now, don't get confused with like this speaker's a 2,000 watt speaker. That's its output. That's its amplifier output. That's not its draw. Two different things. A lot of times, if you look on the back, typically these pull about 2 to 2.5, 3 amps each. So 20 amp circuit. Do the math. You know, let's say it's 3 amps at full power. It's 12 amps, and then this stuff is only pulling maybe a couple amps. You know, so you're good on a 15 amp circuit. You know. A lot of power strips, a lot of surge protectors, GFIs are only rated for 15 amps. So you got to be careful of those too. But that's why you have your power conditioner. It's going to tell you. And that power conditioner is in every DJ system and every ceremony system.